Yo, and we back with another one. We finna look at this young Jeezy with these ties to his early ties to BMF. But before we get into all that, make sure y'all hit that like button, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, and make sure y'all got that bell check so y'all won't miss a video when I drop this hot content. So let's get right into it.
I look at Jeezy, the support that they offered him in those early stages. I don't think there's Jeezy without BMF.
That's my them it's like my extended family, man. Them my niggas, man. Niggas support me in every shape, form, and fashion. I do the same.
People putting out narratives as if I owed them.
Oh,
I don't owe them anything.
right.
You know, if it wasn't for that, it would be no me. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't understand that. I don't really know T. I knew of T.
Right.
Because when I was kicking it with Meech, him and T were like beefing.
If you and your homeboys is walking through the mall, and it's 3 of y'all, and then 15 guys come and say, we finna beat y'all ass, and the nigga run, that was Jeezy.
Lou Da Vinci blamed Young Jeezy for the downfall of his whole career. Ain't that crazy? Let's go.
He was the rank.
So he abandoned the name when he got hot?
I mean, look,
right.
what's understood don't even got to be talked about.
Understood.
Everybody know, man.
Young Jeezy is without a doubt one of the most influential figures in hip-hop, especially as one of the artists credited with bringing trap music into the mainstream. But did you know Jeezy might not have become the icon we know today if it weren't for the Black Mafia family, or in short, BMF? At least, that's what some insiders are saying.
Meech was a really, really good friend of mine.
Okay.
And he said, listen, Khan, I got this artist, man. I need your help on it. I promise you, man, I'm gonna look out for you. However you need me, I got you. I said, man, bro, just bring him to me. Jeezy, at the time, was so raw.
Right.
I was like, bro, this kid, I don't know where you found him, but he's out of here.
If you're familiar with the BMF, you already know they're legendary in their own right.
Man, what the hell Lil Scrappy doing out? Man, Lil Scrappy all in the club with Meech and they were dancing like that. What's wrong with Lil Scrappy?
Right. Started by two brothers, Big Meech and Terry, who came up in Detroit. In the late 80s, they started small, slinging a little coke here and there. But over the next decade, they turned that hustle into a massive operation, building a $250 million empire that controlled the flow of coke into at least 3 major cities. They were one of the biggest drug organizations of their time. But the BMF wasn't just about the streets. They also had their hands in the music industry, helping to launch the careers of several hip-hop artists, including Young Jeezy.
They said you actually part of BMF record. You still signing? No, that's my okay. That's my man. Shouts out to Blue in my Haiti City, man. LA hold it down. It's like my extended family, man. Them my man. Niggas support me in every shape, form, and fashion. I do the same, man. Real talk.
Even though Jeezy never officially signed with them, he had a close relationship with Big Meech in particular.
Don't lie, y'all had them snowman t-shirts too. Don't try to sit up there and act like you ain't had one of them snowman t-shirts.
That connection played a big role in Jeezy's early success. However, things eventually went south. Jeezy and the BMF had a major falling out, especially after Big Meech was arrested. And let's just say, the breakup wasn't pretty. It got messy with death threats, fights, and all kinds.
And I ain't gonna lie, they must be waiting on something big because since Meech been out, you ain't seen Meech around Jeezy, you ain't seen Jeezy around Meech, you ain't heard Jeezy say nothing about Meech, you ain't heard Meech say nothing about Jeezy. What's really going on?
Of drama.
So you guys ended up having beef with Jeezy a little bit, okay.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say the whole BMF squad, but Blue, I would say right before Baby Blue got it was a beef. It was an on-site thing.
Jeezy called his bluff. Jeezy was like, y'all, you ain't gonna shoot. And Jeezy took the gun and put it to his head and was like, shoot. If you gonna shoot, shoot.
There's a lot to unpack in this story, so let's break it down. Back in the early 2000s, Young Jeezy was a hungry, up-and-coming rapper determined to make his mark. That's when Big Meech stepped in. Seeing Jeezy's raw talent and potential, Meech took him under his wing and gave him the kind of backing that most artists could only dream of. With the weight of the Black Mafia family, BMF behind him, Jeezy's career skyrocketed. Meech used BMF's massive influence to push Jeezy's career to the next level. Lavish music videos, relentless promotion, and connections in the right circles helped Jeezy's music make its way to every corner of the streets and beyond. Jeezy's breakout album, Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101, became the soundtrack for hustlers everywhere. The rawness in his lyrics, the grind he rapped about, it all felt real because it was real. And it fit perfectly with BMF's larger-than-life image. The bond between Jeezy and Meech went beyond business. It was built on mutual respect. Jeezy often talked about Meech's generosity and leadership, describing him as someone who genuinely cared about the people around him.
What do you think made Meech, drew so many people to Meech? What was
because he cared, like he really did. Like he's a genuine dude.
One of the most legendary stories from their time together was their trip to Cancun, which has gone down in hip-hop lore as one of the wildest vacations ever. Big Meech didn't just take a few close friends. He chartered a plane and brought 300 people with him. An entire plane filled with Meech's crew, including Jeezy, ready to party like there was no tomorrow. The champagne was flowing non-stop, and every day was like a movie.
One time, this motherfucker called me and said, "Yo, Jeezy, we going to Cancun." I said, "Who, Meech?" "We." "Who is we?" "Everybody. Call everybody you know." This motherfucker chartered a plane, not a jet, a plane, and took 300 people to Cancun, Mexico.
And it wasn't just Jeezy who saw how powerful BMF was in the music scene. Other celebrities took notice too. Even 50 Cent had stories about them. In a 2019 interview with DJ Drama, 50 shared his first impressions of BMF. He explained how, in 2003, BMF had already embedded themselves in the music industry in a way that couldn't be ignored. They were so deep in the music business, 50 said, when you can find your pockets, people like having you around. When you're at the nightclub and Puffy can't buy champagne because you bought all of it, they have to speak to you.
They were so embedded into the music business because when you can find your pockets, people like you around. Right? When you like at the nightclub and Puffy can't buy champagne because you bought all of it. They start to have to speak to you.
But 50, ever the businessman, kept his distance. He admitted that he avoided getting too close because he knew how easily things could spiral out of control. He respected their power and influence, but understood that associating too closely could bring unnecessary heat.
I stayed away from it. Because I know who I am. And I know how easy it is for me to, I might have bought something. They would reach out and stuff like that, and I would avoid it.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't good for where I was at. I was like, nah.
And he was right. Running an empire like BMF was bound to catch up with Big Meech and Terry eventually. Their high-profile lifestyle, flashy spending, and massive drug operations didn't go unnoticed. It was only a matter of time before the feds came down hard on them. And when they did, it shook everything to its core. Both Meech and Terry were arrested, and the organization crumbled. This is where young Jeezy's relationship with BMF took a major hit. When things were good, they were really good. But once the heat came down, some BMF members started to feel like Jeezy had turned his back on them. A lot of BMF members have spoken out about this over the years. Some feel that Jeezy was all about reaping the benefits of being associated with BMF when the money was flowing. But when the feds got involved, he distanced himself to save his own career.
If you and your homeboys is walking through the mall, and it's 3 of y'all, and then 15 guys come and say, "We finna beat y'all," and the nigga that run, that was Jeezy. He was the nigga that ran.
So he abandoned the nigga. Man, Blue Da Vinci can't stand young Jeezy, man. That's crazy.
When he got hot,
I mean, look, what's understood don't even got to be talked about.
Understood.
Everybody know, man. It ain't no secret.
One particularly tense moment was shared by Clem, Jeezy's former right-hand man. Clem claimed that things got so bad that they almost got shot.
And where the hell Clem been at? You know what I'm saying? Meech done got out Jeezy, but I ain't heard nothing from Clem. They must have sent him some cease and desist or something, because I ain't heard nothing from Clem in a while. Clem was on YouTube going crazy.
Shot by a BMF member during the fallout. According to Clem, the confrontation was heated, with the BMF member threatening to pull the trigger. But Jeezy stood his ground, even daring the guy to shoot. Thankfully, the situation didn't escalate.
Jeezy called his bluff. Jeezy was like, y'all, you ain't gonna shoot. And Jeezy took the gun and put it to his head and was like, shoot. If you gonna shoot, shoot.
Despite the accusations and tension, Jeezy has always tried to stay diplomatic when discussing BMF, especially Big Meech. He's spoken highly of Meech's leadership and influence, but he's also been firm about one thing: he wasn't a part of BMF's drug business. Jeezy has maintained that he and Meech were close friends who hung out, but that's as far as it went. In Jeezy's eyes, the idea that he owes BMF for his success is false. He's made it clear that his grind and talent were the real driving forces behind his rise.
It was like we was hanging and being in the same spots, but like me and Meech was really like that though.
Right.
Me, Meech and J-Bo, like them with my guys.
When Terry Flannery, aka Southwest T, was released from prison in 2020, the drama reignited. 50 Cent, always one to stir the pot, took it upon himself to call out everyone who had been associated with BMF, including Jeezy, Diddy, and Irv Gotti. 50 basically told them to check in with Terry and show some respect, implying they owed BMF something. Jeezy did connect with Terry after his release, but he stood firm on his position. He reiterated that he didn't owe them anything and that he was never involved in their drug operations. Jeezy admitted he didn't know Terry personally, only knowing of him through Meech.
It was people putting out narratives as if I owed them.
Oh.
I don't owe them anything.
Right.
I don't really know T. I knew of T.
Right.
Because when I was kicking it with Meech, him and T were like beefing.
But all this explanation didn't sit well with everyone. Some people have accused Jeezy of lying. During the trial that led to BMF's takedown, Jeezy's name came up in testimony. Ralphie Sims, a BMF member.
Damn, Ralph snitched on everybody. Hey. When you got a big crew, that's gonna be your biggest downfall. Somebody snitching.
Testified that Jeezy had received kilos of coke from the organization. This claim added fuel to the fire, making many question just how deep Jeezy's ties to BMF really went. But on the flip side, J-Bo, another key BMF member who was deeply involved in the drug business, came to Jeezy's defense. According to J-Bo, Jeezy's claims are legit. He argued that Jeezy wasn't part of the organization's illegal activities and was more of an associate who hung around for the clout.
There was a BMF snitch who actually testified that you were present and gave Jeezy 5 kilos of cocaine to sell in Atlanta.
That shit wasn't true, man. That ain't true. Jeezy just did his music, bro. Just trying to tie him in with us, man, bro. He just was with us, you know, for the clout.
But to really grasp the depth and scale of the BMF organization, we need to take it back to where it all began. Demetrius and Terry Flannery, better known as Big Meech and Southwest T, grew up in Detroit, and life wasn't easy. Their family struggled with poverty, relying on food stamps and dealing with their electricity being cut off regularly. These financial issues eventually led to their parents' divorce. At the time, Meech and Terry were still in high school, but they knew they had to step up and help their mom with the bills. They started small, selling weed to get by, but their lives took a major turn when they connected with E.D. Boyd, a prominent figure in Detroit's drug scene. Boyd ran the 50 Boys crew, one of the most powerful groups in the city, and the crack epidemic had made him wealthy. Meech and Terry began working for Boyd, moving coke, and realized just how much money there was in the drug game. Selling weed had helped them scrape by, but dealing coke was a whole new level of income. With the money rolling in, they could pay all their bills and more. But the streets are never without drama, and they quickly found themselves beefing with a rival dealer named LaDon Simon. Things got heated with Simon, and it all came to a head when he allegedly tried to take Meech out in a drive-by shooting. Despite the attempt on his life, Meech refused to back down. Instead, he and Terry decided to take control of their destiny. They found their own direct plug and started bringing coke into the city themselves. That move marked the beginning of their rise to power. While most big-time dealers either end up dead or in prison, E.D. Boyd chose a different path. He retired from the game without any hard feelings, and even gave Meech and Terry his blessing to take over. In an interview with DJ Vlad, Boyd revealed that he's still friends with the brothers and had no regrets about stepping away when he did. With Boyd out of the picture, Meech and Terry became the go-to suppliers in Detroit, running the show and stacking serious cash. But success in the streets comes with enemies, and their beef with LaDon Simon escalated. One night, things boiled over at a party where their crews clashed. Shots were fired, and in the chaos, LaDon allegedly grabbed Meech as a human shield. Tragically, LaDon's brother Elvis was shot and offed, and LaDon himself was hit 5 times in the back but survived. The violence didn't stop there. A few months later, LaDon allegedly took another shot at Meech. At the time, Meech was partying at a diner in LaDon's territory, which was already tense after the recent loss of LaDon's brother and his nephew's tragic death. It's unclear what sparked the confrontation, but LaDon allegedly opened fire and shot Meech multiple times. For most people, getting shot would be a wake-up call to leave the streets behind, but not Meech. He was back on his feet within days, more determined than ever to expand his empire. By 1990, Meech decided Detroit wasn't enough and set his sights on Atlanta. While Terry stayed in Detroit managing their operations, Meech moved to Atlanta to grow their reach. Unlike most dealers who take over new territory through violence, Meech took a different approach. He made his presence known by hitting up the hottest clubs in Atlanta, flashing stacks of cash, and earning the respect of the city's major players. Instead of pushing out local dealers, Meech supplied them, creating a win-win situation. This strategy allowed him to avoid unnecessary street drama while building a massive network. At the time, Meech and Terry had a Colombian connection that brought in coke through Florida. But as law enforcement started cracking down on those routes, Meech adapted. He moved to Los Angeles to establish a new plug, securing a steady supply from the West Coast. With their operation now spanning multiple states, including Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and North Carolina, the Flannery brothers were on their way to becoming one of the most powerful drug organizations in the country. By the early 2000s, Terry and Meech weren't just running one of the biggest drug operations in the country. They were building an empire. But things started to shift when Meech decided to turn the Black Mafia family, BMF, into more than just a crime organization. He wanted to create a full-blown brand. Hanging out with rappers and entertainers wasn't new for Meech and Terry. They were already rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest names in the industry. But Meech took it to the next level when he launched BMF Entertainment, a music label and promotion company. On paper, it looked like a legitimate business, which was smart since it gave them a way to launder their drug money. But Meech's flashy lifestyle and obsession with promoting the BMF brand put the entire operation under a microscope. While Terry preferred to stay under the radar, Meech's strategy was to flaunt their wealth and make noise. Wherever he went, Meech turned.
Now, this is the crazy part, right? As flashy as Meech was, and as much as Meech was doing, one of the biggest parts of the takedown was when Terry had got on the phone and he was on that phone call and the feds had the phone tapped and they recorded a whole bunch of stuff that he said. Meech wasn't talking on no phone, so they ain't never had him on no phone tap.
Heads. When he rolled into a new city, he didn't come quietly. Instead, he'd walk into the hottest clubs and blow $50,000 to $100,000 in a single night. For Meech, it wasn't just about having fun. It was part of his business plan. Throwing around that kind of cash caught the attention of every local hustler in the room, and before long, Meech was connecting with the biggest dealers in town. It was a bold move, and back in the day, it worked. But when Meech launched BMF Entertainment, the spotlight on their empire became too bright. The label quickly became a major player in the rap game, but nobody could figure out where all the money was coming from. Meech wasn't shy about showing off either. He flexed his luxury cars, massive mansions, and even had billboards in Atlanta promoting the company.
So much of the evidence was about lifestyle. The shocking lifestyle of Demetrius. The only pictures of Demetrius Flannery are at cool parties, at clubs.
And I'm just thinking, now imagine being in the club, you BMF, y'all celebrating, you know, everything going crazy, and the whole time, feds got informants in there with BMF t-shirts on, taking pictures and all that. You hear me? Like, that's wild, bro. Like, that's why you can't roll with no big crew, man. If y'all doing anything illegal, can't roll with no big crew.
Directing videos being with famous people.
To outsiders, it looked like he was just a successful businessman living the high life. But Terry wasn't feeling it. He knew all that attention would eventually bring heat from law enforcement, and it started driving a wedge between the brothers. Meech's partying and public profile clashed with Terry's more low-key approach, and by the early 2000s, the cracks in their relationship were starting to show. Then in 2003, things took a dark turn. Meech found himself caught up in a double club chaos in Atlanta. He got into an argument with Anthony Wolf Jones, a former bodyguard for Diddy, and the situation escalated. Shots were fired, and by the time the dust settled, Wolf—
And guess what that altercation was about? All over a bop. All over a bop, this man lost his life.
Wolf and his friend Lamont Gertie were dead. Meech wasn't unscathed either. He got shot in the backside during the altercation. Meech was arrested and charged with double, but the case against him was weak. The judge allowed him to be placed on house arrest instead of staying behind bars. Still, the incident was another blow to his already strained relationship with Terry. While Meech was stuck in Atlanta dealing with legal troubles, Terry was running the West Coast operations on his own. The tension between them only grew worse. During Meech's time on house arrest, his crew continued to show their loyalty. At Terry's 34th birthday party, a group of Meech's guys showed up wearing Free Big Meech shirts, and even brought a monitor so Meech could speak to everyone at the event. But things quickly got heated between the two sides, and before long, guns were drawn. Thankfully, nothing escalated further that night, but it was clear that the end of BMF was looming. Law enforcement had been trying to take down BMF since the 90s, but they didn't get a solid break in the case until 2004. The first domino fell when the feds tapped the phone of a small-time dealer in Atlanta named DeCarlo Hoskins. Through Hoskins, they connected with two BMF members, Omari McCree and Jeffrey Lair.
The next domino, I would say, was focusing more on these people who were mid to higher level, and one of those guys would have been Omari McCree.
Omari was a high-ranking member, and his connection to Meech gave the feds a gold mine of intel. With wiretaps in place, the cops caught Jeffrey transporting 10 kilos of coke. Instead of arresting him right away, they let him go to gather more evidence. But Jeffrey and Omari panicked and went on the run. Eventually, the cops tracked them down, and their arrests marked the beginning of the end for BMF. As more members started flipping and cooperating with the authorities, the feds got their biggest break yet, a wiretap on Terry's phone. Despite his usually cautious
That phone to get you every time.
nature, Terry made the critical mistake of conducting business over the phone.
I never liked phones. See? You like to talk on the phone. I don't do that.
Hey, me, see my brother with the yip yap on the phone. I ain't talking on no phone though.
I'm not gonna be on the phone telling you to load this car and get these things down south. I never wrote nothing down about nothing. No nicknames, no nothing. Anything written down was my brother's.
For 5 months, the feds listened in on his conversations, collecting over 900 pages of damning evidence. The DEA spent years building a case against the Black Mafia family, BMF, and by October 2005, their work paid off. Over 2 years, they had already arrested 17 members of the crew and seized millions of dollars in cash, drugs, cars, and other luxury assets tied to the operation. But they weren't done yet. Shortly after, the feds rounded up another 30 members of the organization, including the two brothers at the top, Meech and Terry. By then, the sheer scale of BMF's operation was mind-blowing. Authorities claimed the crew was moving a staggering 2,500 kilos of coke every single month. Let that sink in. 2,500 kilos. That kind of volume didn't just make BMF one of the biggest drug organizations in America. It made them one of the largest in the world. It was estimated that Meech and Terry had over 500 people working for them at their peak. From street-level dealers to major distributors, BMF was a well-oiled machine pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars.
All right, well, that's the story, man. Y'all get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think, man. It's your boy Buddha. I'm out.